Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
As I was walking down the street one day.
Judgment Day on this Friday, and it's a headline as breaking news on ESPN right now. It was during Greg and the Eli show, leaked by who else? Shams and Woj. But the judgment is in on Ja. He is suspended for 25 games. He'll be required to meet certain conditions before returning to play. By the way, the suspension is without pay, so he's lost 25 80-seconds of his pay. So, and now Eli, kind enough to hand me the NBA communications release, and we'll see if we are getting, because I'm just going to read it as we go here. We'll see if we'll get what some of these conditions may be. Morant posed, this is from the release. Morant posed with a firearm in a car during a live stream video May 13, less than 2 months after he was suspended 8 games without pay for live streaming of a video on March 4th in which he displayed a firearm while in an intoxicated state at a Denver area nightclub. The league office found out that on May 13th, Morant intentionally and prominently displayed a gun while in a car with several other individuals as they were leaving a social gathering in Memphis. Morant wielded the firearm while knowing that he was being recorded, and the recording was being live streamed on Instagram Live, despite having made comments to the NBA and public statements he would not repeat that conduct for which he was previously disciplined. On May 16th, Morant issued a statement taking full accountability for his actions. Morant's suspension begins immediately. It will remain in effect through the first 25 games of 23-24, for which he is otherwise eligible and able to play. He will also be required to meet certain conditions before he returns to play and will be ineligible to participate in any public, league, or team activities, including preseason games, during the course of his suspension. Quoting, John Morant's decision to once again wield a firearm on social media is alarming and disconcerting given his similar conduct in March, for which he was already suspended 8 games. This is from Adam Silver. Continuing the quote, the potential for other young people to emulate Ja's conduct is particularly concerning. Under these circumstances, we believe a suspension of 25 games is appropriate and makes clear that engaging in reckless and irresponsible behavior with guns will not be tolerated. Further, again quoting, for Ja, basketball needs to take a back seat at this time. Prior to his return to play, he will be required to formulate and fulfill a program with the league that directly addresses the circumstances that led him to repeat this destructive behavior. End quote. End of the NBA communication and statement. So, we don't know what program he is going to have to go into. I don't know if he's got a drinking problem. I don't know if he's addicted to something. We won't know. But we know he's going to have to fulfill all the requirements of that program that probably will be mutually set up between the Grizzlies, the Players Union, and the league, because those are the 3 parties that previously the commissioner has involved in when he's talked about the Josh situation. I would also say, because as Greg was leaving, he was talking about an appeal of the 25 games. I would suspect that this has already been run through the NBA Players Association, because it's been mentioned several times. They already knew what this was going to be. So I don't know that an appeal is coming because I'm not sure he could win an appeal. So, I can't get into Ja's head, but if I were his advisor or I were part of a PR firm that was directing him, I'd say, son, it's time for you to shut up, stay off of social media, go do the program. It'll help you in the long run. And whatever you have an issue with, you need to get over it. And this will actually help you to get over it. So maybe the NBA is doing you a big favor here. Because, you're getting drunk every night or high every night or whatever it is that you are doing, that you can't control these impulses and pick up guns and wave them on live stream. And who knows if you don't get shot or shoot yourself or whatever may happen. Maybe this is a subconscious call for help. And maybe the call is going to be answered because the league seems to really care. They want this guy to succeed. He is a superstar. People like watching him. He does sell their product. There is no question about that. And I don't believe 25 games is totally unreasonable. J-Mo, you did some research already. 25 games leads you to approximately where in the calendar?
If he had been suspended prior to this season, he would be able to play, assuming he did all the extra stuff that they talk about, he would be able to play on December 9th. If that happened before this season.
So, if he indeed does everything
Before
in the past,
Christmas.
let's just say in the middle of December, you could still be on the Christmas Day games,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So now that leads you to, do you now rethink your trade process regarding your best trade asset in Tyus Jones? And I would say to you, and I hate to say this, but it is the truth with the way this league works. Just look at Miami. What happens in October, November, even December, really January, doesn't quite matter as much. If you get yourself into the top 10 positions, right, out of the 15 that exist, if you are able to maneuver yourself into a top 10 position with your team peaking at that time, you can make the NBA Finals. We saw it happen this year with Miami. We've seen it happen before. Now, most of the time, those play-in teams never before has a play-in team won a series and gotten to the first round. We saw it twice this year. So things are changing. In my mind, the importance of the regular season continues to go down. Just have to be in the top 10. Probably more comfortable in the top 6, so you avoid the play-in stuff. But just get into the top 10 and be positioned at that time to be healthy and play your best basketball, because that appears to be all that matters.
I would still say, though, the premise that you don't need – what you say makes total sense, and I agree. You don't need to be worried about winning regular season games with whether or not you make a trade, but I don't really see how the team gets much better without Tyus Jones. He plays a huge role off the bench. Probably is the most impactful player off the bench. Wouldn't he be? Am I forgetting somebody else that would be more impactful off the bench for the Grizzlies?
Well, Santi Aldama could be that
Santi
guy.
Aldama's up there, too. That's for sure. But, I mean, I think Ty's the most impactful player off the bench, and it's not like these
Brandon Clark is a critical piece off the bench for a healthy Steven Adams.
Certainly. But it's not like these teams went to the finals only playing 5 guys. They still played 6, 7 guys off the bench, too. You need him.
Let me ask you this question. If you are able to maneuver Tyus Jones to get a piece that is a 3-and-D player that has the Onanabe kind of impact, that a better shooting Dylan Brooks with that defense, that kind of an impact, is that easier to get now through a trade if you have that piece? Or let me put it to you like this. Is that commodity a harder commodity than a backup point guard? And I would say to you, it probably is.
But I'm not sure who would be willing to give up that caliber of player for Tyus Jones, too. You know what I mean? I mean, it would be
Oh, no. There has to be more pieces. There has to be more pieces, but they need more pieces, especially if they're going to use this draft. Now, look, they've got 3 picks, 2 in the second round. What is it, 43 and 56 or 46 and 53?
That's right.
Whatever it is. It's middle and late second round. They're going to use those for two-way players, most likely, right? They have other picks in the future they can use. And I like Tyus Jones. I like his leadership. I like him as a person. He did not play that well this year. His assist to turnover ratio was still fantastic, but his shooting percentages went way down. He was not as productive on the offensive side as he had been. But their record with him and Ja not in has been pretty good. But again, here's what I'm saying to you. If you can find that piece using Tyus Jones, you can probably find a backup point guard. And the first 25 games we've witnessed now are absolutely not as critical as they used to be, because the regular season has been diminished by the way the league has evolved.
Yeah, I think my pushback would be I'm not sure. Like, if you could trade Tyus Jones, I just don't think the Raptors are going to give up on OG Anunoby. Because I know they talked about it at the trade deadline. He's 25 years old, and they're kind of starting over. But it's not like you sell on a 25-year-old when you start over. That's exactly the kind of age of a guy you want to be a focal piece, if he indeed is going to be a focal piece. Another name I've heard is Mikal Bridges, and I quite frankly just don't see a way how Tyus Jones and whatever additional pieces you put in there could be moved for someone like that.
I think the Nets have made it pretty clear. They're building around this guy.
Exactly.
They're not giving up this guy.
Right.
I don't understand where that conversation continues, because I think the Nets have made it pretty clear from the get-go, and they got him. Once that move was made to get Bridges, they weren't giving up on him unless he was terrible last year, and they have changed their mind, and he wasn't. So that's not going to happen. So I think Anunoby or somebody in that ilk, like a guy, I don't know, Bruce Brown, who's going to be a free agent.
Yeah, they'll get him back. Grant Williams is going to be a free agent.
They're not going to get him back, because he would. I listened to this yesterday, and I believe it was really put out nicely by our guy Colin Cowherd, that you can listen to from 1 to 3 right after Johnny Radio. And there's about, I want to say, I think it's like a total over the life of a contract, because their salary cap stressed in Denver, that Bruce Brown going somewhere else would make, if he gets the 15 to 20 million that he's probably worth, and they can't pay him that he could lose close to 50 million over the course of a contract. So he's not going to stay. He's saying, well, not everything is money, but when you look at all that, and your advisors are saying to you, Bruce, you got your ring, now you got to get money. And you're not going to get your money with Denver because it's too tied up. I think he's gone.
That could be hard for the Grizzlies. I've heard,
but I don't know if he's exactly the guy they're looking for. I like him.
Oh no, he would be exactly what they're looking for if that's the piece they're looking for.
Yeah, but I don't know if they can afford him either, because he's going to get that 15 to 20. It appears.
I've heard Orlando wants to give him big money as well. If he doesn't return to Denver, Orlando wants to give him big money. And Grant Williams is a restricted free agent. I'm not much for the doing the math with all the money and how the money works out. He's a restricted free agent, so obviously the Celtics could match, and it's not like the Grizzlies are playing with buku amounts of money here when they have these two top franchise players signed up.
Grant Williams would be an interesting piece.
Great piece. I mean, you saw his toughness in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And he would be an affordable piece.
He would be.
So
the Celtics can match whatever you offer him, which probably nukes that idea altogether.
Maybe so. I don't know how this is all going to work. That's why Zach Kleiman is what he is. But back in my mind, 25 games, I'd live without Tyus and figure it out in the long run if I could get that piece that I really need to go. Then you've got a core with Ja and with Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. and that wing player that can defend and shoot threes. Now you got them going forward. Steven Adams is locked up, and if he stays healthy, you're in really good shape with Clark and Santi Aldama coming off the bench. There's your 7 guys that you can really count on. And then whoever your backup point guard becomes that you would play the first 25 games with.
So now we can turn our attention to how in the world are we going to get Steven Adams healthy, and when is Brandon Clark going to be back from that ACL?
Well, you know what?
injury?
You got to figure with the with the torn Achilles, that's a year. So I wouldn't expect him to come. Maybe he'll be ready about the same time Jock comes back, maybe a little later.
Maybe so.
So, and then the biggest question is Steven Adams.
What's going on?
Yeah. First of all, nobody really knows, right? He didn't have surgery from what I understand. Here's my fear. He tries to come back middle of summer, and he can't. And they go, okay, now we're going to have to do surgery because that's the only way we can possibly fix this. And now you're talking about, well, he's going to miss another half a year minimum. And now you're going to hope, that you find some piece in the draft. Maybe that's a big. I don't know.
But that guy won't be ready yet either.
I do know this. They worked out a couple of big guys for the draft. Now, can they step in and really be a piece? Xavier Tillman becomes pretty important to you if that is the case. I guess only time will tell on all this, but we now know the NBA has suspended Grizzlies star John Morant 25 games, and there are conditions for reinstatement. So this is 25 games, and he's got to go through the programs, whatever they are. They're not specific as to what his issues are. The only thing they say is basketball needs to take a back seat prior to the return of play. He will be required to formulate and fulfill a program with the league that directly addresses the circumstances that led him to repeat the destructive behavior, and that is pertaining to taking a gun, waving it, intoxicated in some form, live on Instagram. So it's a minimum of 25. Let's put it like that. That news is in. We're sitting in the Family Leisure Studio. Don't forget, you got another week through the 25th for the Come Out and Play sale. That is involving pools and play gyms and in-stock furniture and spas. Special financing available through the 25th. School's out. Come out and play. That's the sale at Family Leisure. And our title sponsors, Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch. That, of course, is also where you can find a new deal on a G70, the Genesis cars. Not all of Hyundai dealerships can sell Genesis luxury cars. They can at Homer Skelton because they are so good. Chris True, all that gang that's been together for a long time, make the car buying experience wonderful. And right now, go talk to Vinny Gerard. He's over the Genesis cars. If you want a G70, the smaller sedan, the rocket ship I call it, you want that car, you get a $1,000 rebate if you finance with Genesis. Why wouldn't you? It's a great rate. They're paying you to do business with them at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis. That is in Olive Branch. All right, somebody nice must have hijacked the USGA. At the U.S. Open yesterday, there were two 62s, 8 under par. You know, the greatest round probably in the U.S. Open was Johnny Miller's 8 under par. That was a 63 in San Francisco. This course, though, does not seem to me to be a U.S. Open. You know what? L.A. Country Club's beautiful. It's unique. But the USGA, I don't know what they're thinking about. Do you realize that on some holes, there are 62 yards width of fairway? Most of the time, you're getting 30 yards. It's a premium to be right down the middle and to be able to hit from the fairway. 61 yards? Are you kidding me? Crazy. I don't understand it. So yesterday, Ricky Fowler. I'm pulling for Ricky Fowler, even though Xander Schauffele, who also had a 62, is my guy. He's my pick. But the Ricky Fowler story is incredible. First of all, this is the first major in a couple of years he's been qualified to make. Couldn't even get into the Masters this year. You know, let's face it. Ricky had the one Great Players Championship 5 years ago. Ricky parlayed good looks, a nice style into great marketing money. I'm sure he's set. But he turned down $75 million from the LIV, okay? He turned that down to be loyal to the PGA and still, despite probably enough money. And he said yesterday, interesting, he goes, my dream was to play on the PGA Tour. I didn't even think about winning. I just wanted, as a kid, to be on the PGA Tour. And, of course, he did that, and he's won a couple of events. He won the Players. That's the biggest accomplishment. But he was known because he became the Puma boy, and he wore the orange on Sundays, and he had the wavy hair and the cool hat and the cool attire. And, young people loved him. Loved him. When he didn't take the $75 million, that raised my eyebrows. This guy really wants to be a serious golfer, and he has. He's switched coaches a couple of times. He's really tinkered, and he's worked his way back into the top 50. That's how he got into this U.S. Open. And to shoot a 62 yesterday, and he's a Californian too, shoot a 62 yesterday, it's amazing. Absolutely a phenomenal story. I'm so happy for him. Brooks Koepka, my other pick, was terrible. Was 3 over right off the bat. Worked his way to 1 over. He's playing with Rory today. My good friend, who you listen to 3 to 6 every day, and by the way, his partner Brian Takos will be joining us later. He said to me, watch Koepka go crazy today. I said, if Koepka goes crazy today, he's in the same grouping with Rory, who is, 5 under? Watch Rory skyrocket. Because Koepka can get into Rory's head if Koepka can do that. It was a nice comeback from a disastrous start for Koepka. He's tied for 56, so he makes the cut. Here's the thing that really bothers me. This is not supposed to happen at a U.S. Open. 37 golfers, J-Mo, are under par. There are 18 more at even par. So you're telling me 55 of the golfers out of 120 or 125, 55 are par or under par. That's ridiculous. The cut right now is +1. That's ridiculous at a U.S. Open.
It seemed to me, though, the greens were set up to have some really tough pin placements probably today and then Sunday.
Well, they better not put any water on those greens.
Well, they'll get a little too soft. People will be pin seeking by the end of the week.
Oh, they can't let them do that. Not at a U.S. Open. You got to play at a very smart. You know what? The perfect thing is the setup where you got a short distance of width for a fairway. You've got to hit that. Then your landing spot on a green is supposed to be like 3 to 5 yards, right? That funnels to whatever the pin placement is, and that was not the case yesterday. Now, come on, 55. Par or better, 37 under par at a U.S. Open first round. To me, that's not a U.S. Open.
Fair enough, but I didn't like the old U.S. Opens, though.
You don't like the fact that they have to struggle?
No,
I do. It's one time a year.
Used to drive me nuts.
Test. Oh, I love it.
But they would be fake hard, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be like that shot was tough. It would be like you're in impossible conditions to hit a golf ball. Go ahead and try it.
I don't know. I do know this. It's going to be fun to watch the next 3 days. Let's see how much tougher. I think the USGA is embarrassed. I do. We'll see. We'll see what the cut ends up being after today. In the meantime, Andy Schiffman, our agent, is going to join us. We'll talk about the Josh suspension, what the Grizzlies should do. All of this coming your way momentarily. We're in the Family Leisure Studios. I want you to call this number, 384-3511, and here's why. 384-3511 is the number to Conway. It now is going to be hot. The humidity is going up. I do not want you to have your house become a sauna because your air conditioning system broke down. This is the beauty of a $69 Super Saver tune-up. 16 points. They come in, they make your system efficient. That means it's not breaking down in the middle of hot humidity. It also means you're efficient, so your MLGW bill goes down and your system lasts longer. This is called preventative medicine. $69. Get the tune-up on that air conditioning system by calling Conway at 384-3511. And you may want to stock up. Weekends here. You got the U.S. Open that you want to watch all week. Maybe you're celebrating something tonight. I don't know. You might be. It's Friday night. You've got to get some Grind City Brewing beer. You got to go see my guys. Ask about Poppy's Pills. That's the refreshing Pilsner. Everybody loves that. I think that's their #1 seller. I also happen to like Tiger Tail. That's the craft malt liquor. Then there's the Godhopper. That's probably their second, the India Pale Ale. That's probably their number 2 seller. They got a couple of new ones, an amber lager called Thaddeus, and they got their own little Blue Moon thing now, a Belgian-style wheat ale called appropriately Belga. Go check it out. Go to the brewery. It's so beautiful. Just north of downtown, just north of the bridge. You got a beautiful view of the bridge on their beautiful outside grounds. And the brewery itself is beautiful. Go check it out. Go see my friends at Grind City Brewing. Back in just a minute, we go to Chicago. And our agent from Priority Sports, Andy Schiffman, comes your way next.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
So, you're at the game and that hot dog and soda come back to haunt you with heartburn. You try to get under control with a few antacids until bedtime, and then the heartburn comes back. Does this happen to you? Instead of fighting your heartburn, block it with Prilosec OTC so you can celebrate your team's victory without heartburn distracting you. Taking one Prilosec OTC pill in the morning can prevent excess acid production for 24 hours. One pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn. Prilosec OTC, used as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's the season for a new ride from Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat 1901 Covington Pike. Talk about huge savings. Gossett's got 2023 Dodge Charger SXT, and we Gossett at $30,990 or $428 a month. You ready to roam? How about a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport 4x4? We Gossett now just $640 a month, and you'll find Dodge Muscle in your 2022 Dodge Charger Scat Pack. We're talking $4,000 off at Gossett, and if we don't have exactly what you're looking for, Gossett will order it for you today. So drive past the rest and come to the best at Gossett on the Pike, or shop online at GossettMotorCars.net. If you want it, we Gossett at Gossett Motor Cars. 84 months at 6.99 APR, 3,500 down. Charger PH 504,815, MSRP 35,630. Gladiator PL 55,6199, MSRP 52,970. Charger NH 267,934, MSRP 57,715. Includes all rebates and incentives. PF 695 excludes tax, title, and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through the end of the month. Dealer stock only.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
The news is out. Jaws getting 25 games. We're going to talk with our agent in Chicago from Priority Sports. That's Andy Schiffman, who joins us every Friday. In a minute, he's brought to you by Sheldon Rosengarten. You know, Sheldon is one of those guys that doesn't like to brag about himself too much, but he's been around well over 40 years. He's got this highly successful strategic marketing program, which involves preparation, presentation, takes into account a lot of things. What's the market doing? He's studying it all the time, and he's working 24/7, 365, literally for you to get you to the closing table quicker than anybody else. He's got so much confidence, too. He says, talk to 2 or 3 other real estate brokers. Just make sure you talk to him when you're ready to sell or to buy your house. He's the best. And it's easy to get to him. He's got MemphisRelocate.com. Relocation's a big part of his business. Or call 483-0546. Call him. You want to get to the closing table as quickly as possible and get the best price. The guy with the strategy, that's Sheldon. Sheldon Rosengarten, Marks Bensdorf. So here is the statement from Ja after he got the news. I've had time to reflect and realize how much hurt I've caused. I want to apologize to the NBA, the Grizzlies, my teammates, and the city of Memphis. To Adam Silver, Zach Kleiman, Robert Pera, who gave me the opportunity to be a professional athlete and have supported me. I'm sorry for the harm I've done. To the kids who look up to me, I'm sorry for failing you as a role model. I promise I'm going to be better. To all of my sponsors, I'm going to be a better representation of our brands. And to all of my fans, I'm going to make it up to you. I promise. I'm spending this off season and my suspension continuing to work on my own mental health and decision making. I'm also going to be training so that I'm ready to go when I can get back on the court. I know my teammates are going to hold it down, and I'm so sorry I won't be out there with you at the beginning of the season. I hope you'll give me the chance to prove to you over time I'm a better man than what I've been showing you. End quote. Statement from Ja regarding the 25 games. But it's a minimum of 25 games because there are other categories that he will have to fulfill in order to not be as destructive. So he's got to he's required to formulate and fulfill a program with the league that directly addresses his issues. Andy Schiffman, you had said could be a full year, half a year. What is your take on what has transpired now with Adam Silver and the league and the union and Ja?
Well, first off, I think it's positive for Memphis that they announced this heading into the draft, before the draft, so you can just better strategize on draft night, because there are a lot of trades that take place, and now you know how long you'll be without your all-star starting point guard. Yeah, and like we've spoken about in the past, Dave, it is surprising to me. I personally thought he was going to be suspended longer. But look, this is a good chunk of the season. Obviously, it is almost a third of the season that he's going to be out for. You expect to see him back on the floor sometime in December based on this. So I think Ja, in that statement that you just read, he said all the right things. But again, I get it, but we've already been down this road before. He already did this once before when he was suspended 8 games last season. I think the message has been sent loud and clear, because not only is he missing the first 25 games of the season, but in the new collective bargaining agreement, you have to play in a minimum of 65 games to be eligible for certain accolades in the NBA, and that could affect his bonuses that he may have in his contract, and now he is taken out of that equation altogether no matter how well he plays. Think about that. The guy could go out there and lead the league in points per game in the games that he does play this season and still be ineligible for the scoring title in the NBA because of that.
Not just that, but in his pocketbook, he doesn't get paid for the 25 games, so that's 25 82nds of his pay. Also, because, as you said, there's a minimum of 65 games, that means he can't be all NBA. And therefore, he cannot get the Supermax again after this year. So that's another $8 million that he's losing that would be coming from a Supermax. So it is definitely costly. The interesting aspect to me is, and it's probably fair to the guy, but they're not saying what the conditions are. They are saying he has to fulfill a program that he's required to formulate. Okay, so he's got to get together with, I don't know, mental health counselor, a doctor, an addiction guy, whatever it is. He's got to get together, formulate a program, and then go through that program. And if he's not done that requirement, he's not back after 25 games.
Right, and that is something, Dave, that whether or not it comes out in the media in the coming days, the coming weeks, that will be headed up by Ja's agent and his agency. by the NBA Players Association, the Grizzlies, and the league. They will for sure all sit down together and map out what those requirements are for Ja. Definitely the league will be involved. They will be the final arbiter to determine if this meets what they require of Ja to get back out there on the court. And I think it's good. I think this is exactly how he should be using this time away from basketball. And I know it's a little bit cliche what he said in his statement that, hey, I'm going to use this time to better myself, but that really has to happen. That absolutely has to happen, because clearly there's a lot of things going on. And I don't even necessarily know, we've talked about it before on this show, I don't know if it's Ja or if it's really the people around him, because if you look at past behavior over the last season or two, it seems like it always involves people in his life around him, influences, which I understand, but I think it starts there. I think you have to address that if you're in Ja's camp, if you're Ja, and then obviously look inward and look internally to what he can do to put himself in a position to avoid this in the future. But it starts with people around him.
Well, I think it starts with him, because he's the guy that's been intoxicated one way or another in both of those videos, and he's the guy that made the decision to wave the gun knowing he's live on Instagram where it's being streamed. He made those decisions, not his buddies or his dad or anybody else.
But he's putting himself in that position to be affiliated with these people. If he cut these people out of his life, I think you might see a different Ja. I'm hopeful that you would see a different Ja. I think if these people weren't there egging him on, being negative influences, this wouldn't even be a topic of discussion. At least, again, we hope so.
There's no question about this. The league wants him to succeed. Nike wants him to succeed. He hasn't, other than Powerade, maybe, I don't know that he's lost any sponsor, because they all know people look up to him. They like him. There's a charisma about him. He sells their product. The NBA product is being sold through him. The Nike product is being sold through him. And the truth is, it still is, or they would have cut him. That Nike didn't cut him.
He's a very unique brand. His on-the-court demeanor, obviously, everything about him, aesthetically, his hair, it's a brand, all of that. His athleticism, how he's kind of the glue to that roster and that locker room and the leader of that team, or supposed to be the leader of that team, the success the Grizzlies have had since he was drafted by them. It's definitely, he's the face of the franchise. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Here's the question we've been bandying about. We know it's 25 games minimum now. It comes back sometime. Last year it would have been December 9th. So it's the middle of December, before Christmas. Would you still trade your backup, Tyus Jones, knowing that you're going to need a point guard for 25 games? Here was my take, and then I want to know yours. My take is the NBA, the way it's evolved, those first 25 games are really not that important. Look at Miami this year. If you're in the top 10, you got a chance to get all the way to the finals of the playoffs. They're proof of that. We saw 2 play-in teams win first-round series this year. So would you still make moves if it bettered you, knowing you're going to have to wait minimum of 25 games for Ja?
Well, first off, I think you can always make moves if it betters you. But I'll get to that in a second. But to your point, you look at Miami, you look at the first 25 games, the other end of the spectrum, right? If you remember the start of last season, we were all watching Portland and Utah lead their conferences, lead the divisions and just go on this tear to where both those organizations, especially Utah, after they traded away Gobert and took a haul of draft picks back from Minnesota, everyone just, and even Donovan Mitchell, right? You just kind of assumed that they were just going to, all right, they're built to tank. They're going to struggle, and ultimately they didn't make the playoffs. But again, to your point, how impactful and competitive is the first, call it third or fourth of the season, because it almost has flipped on its head when you get to the end of the season and Portland and Utah are drafting in the lottery and you have other teams that rose in the process. It's very, I agree with your point is what I'm trying to say in terms of the meaning of the first 25 games, let's say. I don't want to discount it, though. I do think if you're Memphis, you have a lot of pressure to get out to a good start and compete. And I would hang on to Tyus. And I say that because the Grizzlies will be somewhat limited in what they can do in free agency. They're going to have the mid-level exception, assuming that everything else stands pat. Obviously, it's pretty known they're not going to bring back Dylan Brooks. I think one big priority for the Grizzlies is to take probably all of this mid-level exception, which is a tool for them to go out and sign however many free agents they want to, up to roughly about $12 million, because that's the amount of the mid-level. And if you're a team operating over the salary cap like Memphis will be, but under the tax like Memphis should be, you'll have that tool to go out there and sign players. And so to get the best player available for that, more than likely, and definitely with a lack of open roster spots the Grizzlies will have, they're going to use that full $12 million to go out there and sign probably one player. And you can get a good player for that amount, but is it a point guard to help be a stopgap while Ja's out? Probably not. I think that you should keep Tyus, and he's proven he can step into the starting role and help that team win. You saw that a lot last season. And then use that mid-level to go out there and sign someone to replace Dylan. You can call it a 3-and-D player, but I think you can get a really high-level perimeter shooter who can defend and be a little bit of a playmaker, too, at that number, someone that you need to invest in that wants to win in Memphis or get lucky in the draft. They had their first-round draft pick in the late 20s. They have 2 second-round draft picks, which they're probably going to, if they do keep those picks, they're going to probably sign those players to 2-way contracts, and they'll be able to have 3 players on 2 ways. But if you're Tyus and you're looking at potentially trading him, my thing is, what do you trade him for? Can you go out there and find an upgrade in the trade market?
Let's say you could get a Bruce Brown or OG Anunoby. Would that be worth it? Is it easier to make that deal and find some sort of backup point guard? Seems to me it's easier to find a backup point guard than that.
I personally wouldn't. I think you could go out there and use your mid-level and land a really good player. Real quick, because I got to go. I got to know this. Demarie Franklin signed with KK Metallic Valjevo in Serbia. I may have butchered the name. Is he going to make more money there than he would as a G League guy? And not a two-way guy. Right. As a G League guy, probably so. If you're straight G League, you get, I think they upped it a little bit. It's over $35,000 now. It's around that. If you sign what's called an Exhibit 10, you can make north of $80,000 roughly. And again, this is gross. Overseas, everything is net of taxes. So you keep all that money, the team pays the taxes. I don't know much about that team. He's not going out there making $500,000, but I think it's probably more than the G League. All right. Thank you much. We appreciate it as always. We'll be talking draft next week. Can't wait for that. Sounds good. Have a good weekend. Thanks. You too. Thank you, Andy. We truly appreciate you being with us. This portion of the show brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Team. It's a team, and they collaborate. They get to know you. They get to know your family. And that's how they can pick out the perfect, after they know your budget, the perfect protection for home, auto, or life insurance. And they have the same philosophy when it comes to commercial insurance. Their specialty is mid to small businesses. And if they get to know you and your budget, they're going to find out about your employees, your product. They'll even forecast you down the road, and then they take care of you. Their number is simple, 901-386-GER, because they love the Tigers. That's 901-386-4777. They get to know you to protect you at the Eflin Insurance Team. Back in a minute, we've got Brian Takis in the house. He's next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Case IH is a proud supporter of the Mississippi Farm Bureau, and thanks to a membership benefits partnership, Mississippi Farm Bureau members receive a discount of up to $500 on every qualifying Case IH tractor and piece of equipment you purchase. This discount may be used with other promotions, rebates, or offers. So join Mid-South Ag Equipment and the Mississippi Farm Bureau and pocket up to $500 in savings. Call Mid-South Ag at 662-890-3141 to get your discount today.
This Father's Day, get Dad the gift that he deserves and the one the whole family will enjoy. At Memphis Barbecue Supply, you can choose through a wide selection of over 308 different rubs and sauces. With knowledgeable staff with years of cooking experience, eager to assist with any questions you may have about any of our products. If you want to go big for Father's Day, we got you covered. If it's high time for an upgrade on Dan's old grill, we have over 482 different types of grills you can choose from 14 different grill, griddle, and smoker manufacturers. We can get orders ready as soon as 3 days. If you can't decide on what to get, we offer gift cards at any amount, so you can leave the choosing for good old Dad. Memphis Barbecue Supply is located at 7041 Stage Road in Memphis, or you can order online at mbbqsupply.com. Follow us on all the social media platforms for recipes, new products, and barbecue news.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. In these uncertain economic times, there are so many things as a contractor and a business owner that I cannot control. The rising cost of materials, not to mention fuel and transportation costs. In the last 2 years, shingle prices have almost doubled, and commercial materials have doubled. And I don't have to tell you what fuel costs these days. But you know what I can control? How much markup I put on a project. I have always prided myself in knowing I never gouge a customer. But in an effort to ensure my crews have work and my customers are being treated fairly, I have lowered my profit margin, hoping to give you a price you can live with and keeping my crews busy. So if you need a roof or gutters, please give us a call. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. Fiveash Roofing, a proud sponsor of Tiger Athletics and a member of the Tigers home team. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Gorgeous day, man. This is the day to go to Miramichi. You know, it's in Woodstock, 12 minutes north of downtown. All that natural beauty. Here's the thing about Miramichi right now. They got a new rate thing going on. If you play in the morning, you're still going to pay the usual rate. From noon to 3, $10 off. 3 beyond, $13 off. They're always trying to entice you, and they got the greatest layout. I mean, it's competitive and it's beautiful. All you got to do is go check it out. You'll get hooked. As everybody has, they run out of memberships now at the great Miramichi. Brian Takis joins us now. All right, I'm hearing kind of, or getting a sense, let me put it that way, a quiet confidence about DeAndre Williams actually getting another year to be a part of the Tiger program. They should know in time for him to be able to go to the Dominican Republic with the rest of the team. What are you hearing about that? Any portal news? What's going on with Malco? Those are the questions everybody is clamoring to hear.
Yeah, I'll start with DeAndre. I've kind of heard the same things you've heard. It seems like there's a confidence around it. We had David Cobb from CBS Sports on the show me and Brett did earlier this week, and he laid it out really probably the best I've heard it laid out by anybody. Is he kind of said this isn't more of an issue of DeAndre went to a homeschool association and then to a prep school before going to Evansville to start playing. It's the fact that he's only played 4 years of basketball, and with the COVID year, players get 5 years if they were part of that.
And that at Evansville, they did not do a good job of sending him the right way. He missed a year he could have had at Evansville.
Yes.
And that's the discrepancy. So there is basically a poor job by a school within the NCAA where he should get the break. And apparently his lawyer, what is it, Don Jackson?
Don Jackson, that's right.
Don Jackson has quoted has precedent to quote.
Yeah.
So he feels pretty confident about it.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people are really confident. I was kind of one that when I heard this news, when it first came out there, I was very skeptical about it. I didn't know how it was possible. I kind of started reading the initial reports and the statements and stuff like that, and I was like, I just don't know if this will go through, especially with what we've seen the NCAA do in the past on issues. But now it just seems like there's a lot of confidence. I think Don Jackson is the same attorney that Penny had during the IARP case. So, I mean, this is a guy that this program has worked with, and he seems to kind of know his way around these situations. He said he had a situation like this before, that he kind of is familiar with cases like this. So I feel confident about it. I feel way more confident today about this situation than I did last week. So I think things are moving in a good direction for him. On the transfer portal, I think.
Before you do that, I want to pick your brain on this because it's about DeAndre. And I don't get this. Like you, I had skepticism going, there's no way. Guy's going to be 27. He's already been here for a few years. How in the world can he get another year of eligibility? Well, once you know, okay. Then on social media, there were some people that are going, nah, let him move on. Yeah. Why? Well, if you can get a guy back that is an all-conference first-team player that averaged 17 and almost 8 rebounds a game, that's a heart and soul kind of a guy that last year played in every game, unlike the year before, but has learned now he's got to play all the time. Why wouldn't you welcome him back? And he's a nice guy. Yeah. Why would you not welcome this guy back? I couldn't get that reaction.
Yeah, I don't really understand it. Yeah, I think when I kind of put myself in those shoes on a stance of, time to move on, let's get rid of him, the only thing that would cross my mind is the injuries. And we remember 2 years ago kind of dealt with some back injuries. But last year, like you said, played in every game, was very healthy for a majority, some nicks and bruises along the way, but nothing that kept him out. And so I think especially with this team that's going to be incredibly young, incredibly new, you only have 2 guys outside of if you get DeAndre back and whatever Malcolm does. Right now, 2 guys on the roster from last year's team. So I think if you can bring back an all-conference guy that was the heart and soul of your team, a fan favorite, to kind of be the leader in the clubhouse for the rest of these guys, these newcomers, I think that'd be huge. I mean, it's almost a role of he has that age, he has that experience where he's almost a player coach in a sense, where kind of that role that we saw Alex, where he's the leader. He might not be, scoring 20 points a game, which DeAndre will do more of that, but he's kind of the leader. Everyone kind of looks to Alex Lomax, no matter if he's on the floor or off the floor. He's that leader. He knows what Penny wants to do, and that's kind of the guy to go to. DeAndre can be that guy. He was that guy last year, and he can be that leader for these young guys.
With this makeup, if Caleb Mills turns out to be a really good guy, if Leonard is here, if Pierre is the real deal, I mean, a lot of ifs.
A lot of ifs.
But with Williams, that team goes from an NIT team to an NCAA team. In my mind, there's the other Williams, Mikey Williams. Got to ask you about that, and then we'll get into the portal, because this is really pertinent right now. Mikey Williams' day in court, which was supposed to be June 29th, has now been delayed to July 12th. This comes from his own lawyer's request, who, in his words, has now come across a significant amount of new discovery. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I got to be honest with you. Does that mean, we found out they got more evidence that's not good? Or, we want to make sure we get our ducks in a row because we're going to prove to you we had nothing to do with this. I don't know which it is. I hate to say this, but the first thing kind of scares me that maybe he's buying time to do a plea bargain deal.
No, it's a tricky situation, and I think the biggest question was, I think a lot of people were hoping after this preliminary hearing that you would have some more answers or maybe a more clear direction of how this would go. And so now it's moved back to July 12th, and that's just longer that they're going to have to wait. It seems like Penny has kind of made his decision that he is going to be in Mikey's camp, which it's a very tricky situation. I heard some national guys talk about this earlier in the offseason, kind of when this became news of what do you do if you're Penny Hardaway? You if you're a coach and you're a recruiter, I mean, you have to kind of have your guys back because that could hurt, in the future when you're recruiting guys. They could say, well, you kind of turned on that guy back then. So you want to be in that camp. But also, I mean, we're getting now to the point where last night was the first time you could reach out to 2025 guys, and Penny Hardaway's still trying to get this team together for 2023-24. So it's a very weird situation that he's in. I think we're now just kind of in the waiting game where we're just going to have to wait and see. And but you're right. When I saw that, the first thing that went through my head was, ooh, this might not be too good.
Yeah. All right, last thing, it's portal.
Yeah.
What are you hearing? What's the story with Melko? They still need a big man, right? Of course, DeAndre's gets back here.
That'll help.
You're not so bad because you still got Jonathan Pierre.
Yeah. So I think right now I saw Malcolm on a visit to St. Louis earlier this week. I believe he has one more visit. I think he's going to Western Kentucky. I don't know if that's already happened or if that's coming up. But I think the biggest name out on the portal right now that the Tigers could have interest is 6'11" center Jordan Brown from Louisiana down in the Sun Belt. Averaged about 19.5 points last year, 8.5 rebounds. So
that's pretty good. I mean, Sun Belt is a good mid-level.
It really is.
sort of a league, and that's better numbers than, say, getting a guy that's got a lot of upside from UT Arlington that never played.
Right.
This should be better than KO.
Yeah, and this is a guy. He's going to be a grad transfer from what I understand. Spent time at Nevada and Arizona, so has spent some time in some really good programs. A really, really good program in Arizona before going to Louisiana. So I think this is a guy that he's out in the transfer portal. I haven't heard a lot of news on teams reaching out, but I have heard some rumors that Memphis is a team that's kind of in play for him. So I think that's a guy that you could bring in. He's a big center, a guy that can score and grab some rebounds, and I think that'd be a really great fit for this team.
How many years would he have?
I believe he's a grad transfer, so it'd probably just be a one-year deal.
All right. Brian, thank you much. We appreciate it. We'll be listening to you and Brett on Sports Time. That is from 3 to 6 every day. You'll get his take then on Ja, the U.S. Open, and all the other good stuff. So our week has come to an end. This final portion brought to you by the Spirit Shop. That's that little log cabin right there at Poplar and St. Nick, 4848 Poplar to be exact. That's right in the heart of East Memphis. I mean, if you're traveling down Poplar, you can't find an easier place. And I say little log cabin right down from Clark Tower. Guess what? There's a lot of stuff inside. Spatial engineering. Eddie Connor's a genius. And he also knows all about every kind of spirit, from the bargains to the rare ones. We're talking great bourbon that not many people can find. He's got it there. He'll at least tell you about it. Give you alternatives, great tequilas, great wines, the next up-and-comer. I remember him telling me about Cornerstone many, many years ago, and then all the Cornerstone that I bought at cheap, now it's gone way up in price. It's valuable. He'll tell you all about that. You get a true education and great service when you go restock for the weekend at the Spirit Shop at Poplar and St. Nick. So that does it for us. Enjoy the U.S. Open this weekend. We'll reconvene on Monday. Johnny Radio's next. Homer Skelton Hyundai.